up, everybody, and welcome back to Coach 'em Up with Bradley County Sports. I'm your host, RC Talent. And before we jump in today's podcast and today's episode, I want to give a huge thank you to our partners and our sponsors who help make this show possible. We want to give a shout out to ESPN Cleveland 1013 for all your local and national stories. Go listen to those guys in the evenings and also on their social media pages. They do a fantastic job, and they help push out our podcast on their social media pages. Also, shout out to Southside Fitness. For all your fitness needs and goals, if you're looking for anywhere to go in Cleveland, that's the number one place to go. They got all kinds of stuff there, nutrition bars. They got meal planning stuff that you can do, and it's just a fantastic place. Highly recommend those guys. Also, GP Athletes, who is also a part of Southside Fitness. It's the original training place in Bradley County for all your athletes. From youth all the way up to high school. They train your kids, get them ready in the off season or whenever they feel like coming to work out. So any opportunity that you get to go to GP Athletes, go check Anthony and those guys out there, and they do a fantastic job. Also, Win the Battle batting gloves, phenomenal batting gloves. My son's got a pair. They're absolutely amazing. They fit well. They grip good. It's one of the highest batting glove you can buy in the area today. So we appreciate y'all for supporting the podcast and supporting athletes in our area. But now listen, today's episode is a special one. I'm joined by Pastor Mickey Clark of Crossroads Community Church, who is a chaplain of mine at Bradley Central High School, and he spent the last 20 years or so, he has spent 20 years pouring into students and athletes, coaches, and programs through chaplaincy, and he's done that for a long time, and now he's the pastor of Crossroads Community Church, and we're going to talk about youth sports, faith, leadership, some pressure, and what it really looks like to impact kids beyond the game, beyond the sports that they're playing. So let's get into it, and let's welcome to the stage Mickey Clark. What up, Mick?
Hey, Ricky, how are you, baby?
Hey, guess what, Mick? Your camera's upside down there. We got you.
Oh, man, I'm trying not to be 51 years old here, man. Trying not to be 51 years old.
When they put this on and watch it, you're just going to start laughing. Oh,
yeah, I know it. No, I was messing with you. I knew you had me backstage, and I was sitting there going, I'm going to mess with him from the very beginning because people don't know we go way back. I'm just messing with you, man. What's up?
You know, I'm sitting here watching. I'm like, I think because I saw the screen kind of go, I'm like, he's done something's going on here. And then I trying to get you on stage, and you're looking like Spider-Man hanging upside down. But,
yeah. Hey, enter like you know what you're doing. Make an appearance from the very beginning, right?
That's right. Well, Pastor Mickey, we appreciate you joining us today. And, we've talked about this for a little bit now. Finally, we were able to get some time on our schedule where we could do this. But I want to start off and, for everybody who may not know you, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I'm just Mickey. I'm married to Amy Lou for 28 years, got 5 kids. Pastor at Crossroads Community Church. Prior to pastoring Crossroads, I was in student ministry for many, many years, 25 years to be exact. Been pastoring Crossroads for 8 years now, and it's been an awesome journey. A lot of people will know me, not necessarily from the church, but we're real big on being in the community. I've been the chaplain for Bradley Central High School's football team. This next year will be 17 seasons.
Wow. That's
and
awesome.
Been out at Lake Forest for 20 seasons.
Wow.
But prior to coming to Cleveland, I was chaplain at Blackman High School in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I was chaplain in Georgia at Habersham Central. I've been a part of FCA through all those years and supporting that ministry and traveling and speaking for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes as well. And just really big on supporting coaches, to be honest with you. That's the biggest thing that my heart, and I got a great relationship with Coach Floyd, and also go in every week with Coach Reuter and the girls basketball team over there at Bradley. And honestly, anywhere they invite me, if they say, hey, Mickey, will you come? My answer in advance is yes. So we try to support all of our local athletes. And actually this year, got the opportunity to start going into the Bradley Youth League and working with those kids that were getting ready to go into middle school. And just talking about some things that are bigger than football,
Sure.
But also understanding that they're there playing a sport, and so we don't want to lose track of that as well. But trying to give some balance.
Sure. Yeah. And, for people who don't know and who haven't been to Crossroads Community Church, me and my wife, we went to Silverdale. That's what she graduated from Silverdale. So she went to Silverdale pretty much her whole life. And we love Silverdale. And when we transitioned back to Cleveland, we didn't really know, Silverdale, it was a little bit of a drive for us. And we started looking around here, and we went to First Baptist a little bit and loved First Baptist, but we've been going to Crossroads here for the past several weeks. And I know the other day my wife looked at me and I told you this, she said, we're home. We're home.
Yeah.
We found us a church. And I just want to say, anybody that's listening out there, if you're looking for a church to attend, they are so welcoming at Crossroads Community Church. They make you feel home. It's a place where you can go and feel loved, and highly recommend if you're looking for a place to call home to go to Crossroads Community Church.
Man, I appreciate those kind words, and we love having you and your wife. And you mentioned some amazing churches right there. And one of our big callings is we want to support the local church. And so we're real big on the capital C church. I'm real big, like my commitment as a pastor is if Crossroads isn't the place for you, I'll help you find the right place, because we just want you to be in church. And that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So Mick, let's talk about this. When did you realize that you had a love for sports?
It went all the way back when I was young. I mean, I joked around earlier when I was messing with you with the camera, and I apologize. I probably shouldn't have done that, but yeah, it was just me being silly. But, at an early age, all we did was play. I mean, I grew up in a neighborhood with an older brother, and, this is back in the, early 80s. And, we joke around. I mean, Mom would look at us, and it was like, you got to go outside. And it wasn't like, hey, go play outside, just go have fun. It was like, no, like, you have got to go outside, because she was going to be cleaning the house or doing something. And we had neighborhood kids, and we got together and was involved in Little League, and, did some different things with football briefly. I didn't hit 100 pounds till I was in 9th grade. So, football really wasn't fit for me. And being a whopping 5'7" at the peak of my high school years, you start realizing real quick that you can be hitting or getting hit. And I found myself being on the latter of the two. Got into wrestling, really excelled in the wrestling concept, being able to wrestle and be in a lower weight class, be in a smaller frame. And I just loved it. I just loved everything about sports. I'm still a big fan. I'm definitely a fanatic, and it's one of those things. I don't let it become bigger than what it needs to be. And I think that's where I started really realizing it. And in student ministry, I realized with my own life, because of what I did in high school and the guys I ran around and being a part of that sports scene, and in student ministry, watching the guys that really were movers and shakers. And please don't mishear me on this. Everybody has a purpose. Everybody has a place. But people in that sports arena world, it reminds me of that, the whole poem and of the man in the arena. It's just different. It's just different. And you got some natural leaders that have natural influence. And God just really called me to join alongside them as one of them. And don't mishear me. I don't consider my athlete now. At about 26, I got hungry and ate myself, And so, but it's one of those things that just having those experiences. So yeah, I mean, it's been my whole life. That's all we did. If you could kick it, bounce it, throw it, that's what we did. I mean, that's just the way we grew up.
Yeah. Well, I saw you today at Lake Forest and during the pep rally there, and you've got a daughter that goes to Lake Forest Middle School. Mick, talk to me a little bit about what that's been like for you watching the kiddos, go through school in Easton and I believe that's right, Easton, correct?
Yeah. We got 5. We have Easton, who's the oldest, and he played at Bradley. And Braden, who also played at Bradley. Addison, who graduated from Bradley, played volleyball. And now me and my wife got 2 more. They're in middle school, and watching them go through it, I understand the local sports, understand stuff, but I think the biggest thing is you get a different perspective after you've went through it.
Sure.
As a parent, we want to do everything we can to help our kids, to give them every opportunity to excel. After going through it, I started realizing, and being around it as long as I have in so many different cities, in so many different places, you start realizing what really matters. And there's a difference between pulling on your kid to get them somewhere where you are and pushing your kid, which is somewhere that you've never been or are not.
Sure.
And that's a big difference in the sporting world. And that's probably the biggest thing I've learned, because I'm one of the few chaplains that I believe can say that I was the chaplain of a gentleman that got picked #1 in the major league draft.
That's
I
awesome.
was also the chaplain of a young lady that got picked #1 in the WNBA. Both of them ended up being all-stars.
That's
and
awesome.
David Price started the all-star game when he was pitching in Detroit. And, of course, Ryan Howard from Bradley. And even other kids, lots of kids that I've seen along the way. Of course, I say kids. They're not kids. They're grown men and women, and amazing at that. But it's just cool. I mean, that's where even though I'm a fan, I've become more of a fan of people than I am just a particular team.
Right. Well, talking about fans of people, your #1 fan, I'd say, would have to be Miss Amy Lou. And
Yes.
so, you doing, being a chaplain at all these places and being a pastor at Crossroads and some other places. Talk to me a little bit about what she's meant to you, because I know that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot that you carry, and when you have that support system, I mean, I can't imagine, having to, doing all the stuff the heavy lifting you have to do, but she's been there right beside you the whole way.
She has, and then some. I mean, you get me talking about Amy Lou, and I'll try not to get emotional, because she's my rock. I mean, she's the one that's been there. I mean, I've said it already. We're blessed to have 5 children, and a lot of people consider that to be a big family. People said, "Why did you have 5?" I said, "Well, because we had 2 miscarriages, or we'd have had 7." And it's just one of those things that, and going through those seasons, and she was so awesome in supporting our calling. It's not mine, it's ours.
Absolutely.
She's actually all the athleticism that our kids have. It comes from my wife, Amy Lou. She played volleyball in high school, and actually had an offer from the University of Clemson to go play volleyball. And I mean, she is amazing. And so what's cool is, not only am I doing this, and it's not just my heart, my dream, what God's called me to, she's right there alongside me. I mean, anybody that's ever been to a football game and seen her in the stands, I mean, she's into it. She's, hey, you got my season tickets. We're going to go to the game. She loves it, and loves the coaches, and loves supporting, loves what we do together. But it is. And, I think the hardest part for me is, and what people don't understand, and again, I'm hitting the other side of some of this stuff. You go through different seasons, and that's what I would tell anybody, is you're going through this. You got to realize that life is going to change and seasons are going to change. There's a big difference in having a child, and it's a single child, and they're 2, and having 3 children, and they range 12, 8, and 3.
Sure.
And that could put a strain. And so what I've tried to make sure of, and I'm not going to say I did a good job of it, she was very gracious and kind with me. But when I was present, I was completely present.
Sure.
And when I was away, I made sure it was a priority and something worth being away for. I wasn't just going to give up my time for nothing. If I was going to be away from my family, then it needed to be something that I felt called to, that had worth. And she would let me know those things too, never negatively. But there would be times she'd say, "Are you sure this is what you need to be doing?" And we would talk through it and be on the same page.
Yeah. Well, you said something big there that I really want to hit on here. You talked about being present, and, we've got over 15,000 athletes in Bradley County. And so that means we have a lot of coaches here in Bradley County. So I think one of the most difficult things as a coach is being able to balance family and coaching, because all coaches feel like they're called to coach. And I had this conversation with my wife the other day, asking her, how can I be more present for you? And I'll be honest with you, Mick, sometimes it's hard for me to shut it off whenever I come home, So what's some advice that you would give coaches that just, sometimes it's just hard to put the playbook down?
Yeah, that is a very good question. being around the coaches I've had in literally 3 different states, that's a big deal, no matter what level you're on. And I'm even including like the Pee Wee football.
Sure.
I'm talking about the rec league, because the thing I think you have to realize is there's a difference between preparation and obsession. And I think that's the line that a lot of people never understand. A lot of coaches get caught up in obsession when they feel like they have something that they are losing or gaining when their team performs well. In other words, if I go out here on this field and we get beat, then I'm going to look bad as a coach, and I'm going to look bad as not doing these things. And they wear that. And a lot of coaches that I've seen, as they've matured, they start realizing, a lot of people don't want to talk about this, but it's not always the best coach team that wins.
Sure.
Like sometimes it's just about the Jims and the Joes.
Yeah.
And if you have the Jims and the Joes, guess what? It's hard to compete. That doesn't mean you don't prepare. That doesn't mean that any given day something can't happen. But, a lot of times it's Jims and Joes. And so the coaches that really gravitate and get it, no matter what level, is when they start realizing, I'm not coaching for a scoreboard. I'm coaching to capture the heart of a kid.
Sure.
And so what's going to change the heart of a kid? And you've already said it, you got to be there.
Yep.
And when you're there, be there. And when it's time, like have the same work ethic, have great work ethic. But at the end of the day, sports are a game, and it's supposed to be a game.
Sure.
It's never supposed to be if it was supposed to be our whole world, then why do we walk away from it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I completely agree with you. And I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable here, because I think there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way at points, similar to what I do. And me and my wife had this conversation, probably about a year ago. And, and we talked about, as coaches, they spend a lot of time at schools, in the film room, doing those types of things. And, you never want to, I never wanted to make sports an idol of mine,
Okay.
And so, and we had conversations. Hey, honey, you need to be more present at home. You need to be here. We have 3 kids. You need to do this. And I think our conversation, as we got to talking, and it really, for me, what it came down to was, I felt like I was good at coaching, right? And I felt like that was my identity, was in coaching. And so, but when I came home, I wasn't the best husband, or I wasn't the best dad. So, understanding that, I stay there longer, I'm at the school longer, because that's what I'm good at.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I feel. I feel like I'm good here. I'm coaching. I'm around people. I'm around this environment. But when I'm come home, I don't know. I didn't know how to be a good dad. Right. I didn't know how to be a good husband, And so I always fell back to what I felt like I was good at, because I was comfortable there. Right.
That's right.
And so, when in reality, it's okay to not to be like, oh, well, it's not okay to not be a good husband. Don't get me wrong, but it's okay to learn. It's okay to put yourself in the right. It's okay to, say, hey, I'm still trying to be better at this. Right. But I also believe too, that you've got to have Christ at the center of everything that you do.
Amen.
And that's where it starts. If you want your marriage to last, if you want to be a great coach, that's where it starts. That's where it starts. And I know this is going out on ESPN, and a lot of people are going to see this, but I don't really care. So I just think there is a lot of that goes on within the coaching ranks, and kind of, and you, like you said, it don't matter if it's rec league to college to professionals. You cannot let sports be your identity. It can be something that you do, but don't let it become everything that you do.
That's right.
Because at the end of the day, we're all, our clock's going to end at some point. Right.
That's right.
And
that's right. Well, you're spot on. I mean, you are spot on. And the thing that I would even encourage you, the funny thing is the way sports and life ties together so much.
Sure.
Right. When you think about the things that you did in the athletic world, even with coaching, it all came because you had time and preparation. And it's no different when it comes to being a husband and being a parent. Just because you've turned around and said, I do, doesn't make you a good husband.
Right.
You know, just because a child's been born and you were in the delivery room didn't make you a good husband. And so, or a good father. You got to have practice, just
Sure.
like everything else. And you know what practice requires? Time.
That's
You
right.
got to be there. And that's the thing. And the more you're around and the more you're there, you'll realize that, you know what? Rather than going to where I'm comfortable, and that's the word you said,
Yep.
I'm going to have to get into my uncomfortable. It's no different than what we tell our athletes.
That's
you
right.
know? I mean, imagine if we told the kid that, well, I just always like dribbling the ball. Yeah, but you're 6'6" now. You know what I'm saying? And don't mishear me. Of course, that stuff's changed as they've gotten older, and we call that a small forward now, right? But it's just crazy that, people have to adjust and make things, and being there's a big thing. That's where it all starts.
Sure. Yeah. And, that I remember when we had that conversation, and it hit me, it hit me hard, and, I remember she looked at me, she said, well, honey, she said, let's just try to learn a new playbook. Right. Let's just try to learn a new playbook. And, and I'll never forget that day. And, not that, I've been a bad dad. I have to be more present. I had to learn how to lead in a better way. I had to learn to lead as a husband in Christ and as a father in Christ. Right. And that's where it all starts.
That's right.
And so I've always, listened or said, hey, I'm still learning this new playbook, as we go. But I do. I just think that's a big thing with coaches now. And, I hope if they listen, I would encourage you to be present, and it's okay to struggle. Just keep working on it. So, but also want to get back to, when did you first realize, Mick, that, I lost my spot here. Yeah. When did you first realize that God has called you into this ministry? Not necessarily as being a pastor, but like into sports, being a sports chaplain and things like that. When did you first, man, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, it started out when I was getting my master's out in Texas, and we were at a smaller church that was a newer church. This would have been 1998, and there was a high school in the backyard called Fossil Ridge, and they had a coach there by the name of Todd Dodd, who later went to South Lake Carroll and then went on to big name there. That was his first coaching gig, was Fossil Ridge High School. And I realized real quickly that our student ministry was exploding with all these athletes. And some people were saying, man, what in the world are you guys doing? And it's like, nothing. We're going to ball games. We're hanging out with kids. And we started realizing the power of presence, the ministry of presence. And it wasn't that we were going because we were wanting them to come somewhere. Me and my wife just loved it. We loved going to the games. We loved hanging out. We loved doing those things. And Todd Dodd had a quote that one year that stuck with me, that I've never been able to get rid of. And it came from David Livingston. And it simply said this: do not come if you need roads, for the men who join me must be about building roads, not paving them, and not just traveling them. And it's amazing. Do not come if you need roads, for the men who join me must be about paving roads, not just traveling them. And it's that aspect of the work, laying the foundation and going. And through conversations and different things, I realized, man, this is great. Graduated, moved to Georgia. Next thing you know, I'm with another gentleman named Coach Theo Caldwell. He had been in Norcross, won a state championship in Georgia in Norcross, and now he's in Habersham Central. And he opened up the door for me to go in there and start doing devotions and hanging out with the kids. And again, we just saw this explosion with all these athletes. And we realized very quickly that the calling was doing something in my life that I felt was a strength or a gift. And being an athlete growing up, I found it very easy to relate to athletes.
Sure.
But my biggest motivation was being in ministry. I didn't want people to come up to me and say, well, Pastor, it's easy for you to say that. It's easy for you to be there on Sunday. You get paid to be there, which is a terrible thought. But when you think about it, you're going, that's not why I'm here, but that's a truthful statement from them.
Yeah.
So I wanted to volunteer and do something extra to be a part of God's work, just like we ask everybody else to do in our church.
Yeah.
And here we sit. Goodness, it would be 31 years later doing different chaplaincies in local schools all over the Southeast.
Wow. That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. So, like, for people, who don't really know, what does a sports chaplain, what does it look like behind the scenes whenever you were doing that?
That's another great question because most people get it confused. I'll tell you what it doesn't look like. What it doesn't look like is showing up to grab time from coach. It doesn't look like showing up and being the center of attention. It doesn't look like, hey, I'm going to use this platform trying to grow a ministry. What it looks like is it to me, and the approach that I've had, is it's a servant's role. It's to show up and be available. The things that I've done is I've helped line up pregame meals, constantly talk to coaches and say, what do you need? What can I do to enhance your calling? What can I do to enhance your ministry? Every one of them been gracious and allowed me a regular schedule to be able to take about 5 minutes and speak into the students and the athletes' lives. But the reality is they're not going to remember what you say that much.
Yeah.
But what they will remember is that you were there.
Absolutely.
And you've been invited into the family. And you know that from our relationship,
Absolutely.
going back when you were at Bradley and being there for practices and being there for walkthroughs and traveling on the bus and being able to do all those things. But the biggest thing that I always tell people that want to get into sports chaplaincy is don't do it for something you want from them. Do it for something that you want for them.
Absolutely.
And so show up and bring something to the table. Show up and see what a need is. Whether it's, I provide fruit every halftime during football season. I bring in a bunch of fruit. And people always ask me, it's like, why do you provide the fruit? For one reason. Because every time as they get ready to graduate, I tell them, because they start being like, hey, that's our chaplain. He's the fruit guy. And I always tell them the same thing. Listen, Scripture says they will know you by your fruit. And I try to drive home messages constantly by living them out, by loving students well. I don't have a ton of people that have been a part of the churches that I've been at that came from chaplaincy.
Sure.
But we have filled up all kinds of other churches. And so what it looks like is not growing a ministry. The churches that take that approach, you see through it very, very quickly. The coaches see through it very quickly. Coach Floyd, him and I laugh because he's told me before, he said, I'm never going to show up on Sunday in the middle of your message and be like, hey, can I get a minute and say something to everybody? He said, but people will show up and just be like, hey, right in the middle of practice, hey, you mind if I grab the students? And it's like, we are in the middle of a job, like we're in the middle of preparing. And they are extremely open to people coming in and helping to be a positive role model for the men and the women and the student athlete. But they're also fleecing to see who's in it for the student athlete and who's in it because something they want for themselves.
Absolutely.
So if you told me what a sports chaplain is, I don't know if I explained it real well, but I'll tell you what it's not. It's not being selfish.
Right.
It's not trying to grow a ministry. It's not an avenue to do something. It's a role that to me is one of the greatest roles that God can give you, to be able to go in. And I will say this, some people may disagree with me. I've had the privilege to be a part of public schools. I'm not against any other platform, but public schools are the backbone of the United States of America. And we're going into public schools, and people will say all different kinds of things. Listen, we understand the separations and things we got to be careful of. We adhere to that. We're respectful of that. That's the reason why we love the students and let them know there's somebody that they can come to at any moment.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. So over the last 20 years, what has changed the most in sports, from youth sports to high school? So I know it's a new generation. So how do you approach, I guess you still love them the same way. You're still there for them, but has it become a little bit more difficult to try to reach these kids now?
No, it actually is not. I see students eager now more than ever before.
Sure.
There's a lot of students that are realizing that all the things they're being sold, they're chasing stuff only to catch it and realize it wasn't worth chasing.
Sure.
I think the bigger difference is how to create sustainability, because the biggest thing that's changed over 20 years is the amount of time that we put student athletes in their particular sport and
Absolutely.
training and practices. I'm not saying it's too much. I'm not saying it's not too much. It's a lot. And that's what's really different. The expectation that, everybody's crow's the blackest, right? Everybody's kid's going to be the best. Everybody's kid's going to be a 5-star, and now with NIL deals, well, you can go and, think about this, like some of these guys are transferring right now, right after the Indiana won the national championship and not going into the NFL. And people are like, why would they not go to the NFL? And it's like, well, why would you? The minimum salary in the NFL is less than what they're going to make if they stay in school. And I think sometimes people just get lost in that. They just get lost in that. And that's the hardest part, is trying to talk to students about a bigger picture when the students are grasping it, but the adult parents and adults in the community are more consumed with like, oh no, this kid's going to be the next great big thing. And I've just been around it so long. And, if I could tell you which ones were going to be the next big thing and make it to a professional level, trust me, I would go around and identify them left and right. But it is the biggest gamble that's in the sporting scene.
Absolutely.
Is banking on your 8-year-old child to go off and play college sports. The reality is let him have fun.
That's right. And we were talking about that yesterday at baseball practice a little bit. And my son is 7, my oldest. I've got a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 4-year-old. So he plays travel baseball and at 7. So yes, I still question if that's the right thing to do or not. But so hey, it's going to cost us $650 for him to play for the Cleveland Dodgers. And I go to these tournaments and I see sometimes the way we as families I can honestly say I don't, but how some people act towards, thinking that their kid is going to be, Aaron Judge, right? And yelling and screaming and panicking and doing all this. Kid gets a ground ball, you've got mama saying throw it to second, you've got coach saying first, and dad's out in the outfield throwing his hat because you grounded it the wrong way, right? So you feel that way. So it really is. I do feel like there's a lot of pressure starting at an early age for athletes to really try to excel. And, and maybe that's a little bit why they are in these sports longer for what they usually would have been several years ago. But I think it's a problem. I really do. I think it's an issue these days. And we're lucky to be around a great group of people with ball. But, it's sad. It really is, because they're so young. Man, just let them have fun. Let them love the game first.
Well, I'll tell you a really good sign that parents can use to know if they're overdoing it when it comes to their children with athletics. I'm telling you, this is the number one sign. When your child's going up to bat, who does he look at? The coach or the parent in the stand? And if dad is coaching or mom is coaching, you've got other great coaches, and watch the way they coach, watch the demeanor. Because I've watched kids that, like, the expectation, right? They'll go out there and go 2 for 3 and be devastated because it just so happened that when they did get out, they were down by 1, runner on second, and they didn't get in the hit to pull in that tying run. And it's the way that parents react. And this isn't about shaming. This isn't about telling somebody how they should do something. I understand what you're saying as far as the money and travel ball. And then there's this unbelievable pressure. You're like, well, but if I don't give them that opportunity, are they going to be left behind? Yeah. And what does that even mean as far as left behind? And I'm telling you, if you watch your child and the way they respond to you when they're at the game and the way they respond after the game, you can real quickly figure out where you need to be.
Sure.
Because I wasn't very good at this when my kids were younger. Talking about being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. I was not very good at this. And it goes back to what I said earlier. I unintentionally was coaching thinking my reputation was on the line. Like, well, I'm a bad coach if we don't win.
Sure.
And we won a whole lot more than we lost. But I have some of my biggest regrets, not because I went nuts out there, but because I just put some pressure that wasn't needed, not just on my kids sometimes, but also on other people's children
Sure.
during football. And it's just, as adults, if I can say it this way, we just remember we're supposed to be adults.
Sure.
And that's just the bottom line.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's, you hit it spot on there, Mick. And but let me ask you this. So going back to the athletes that they're a little bit older, even the younger ones, how do you guys minister to athletes who aren't really in church all the time, who maybe didn't grow up around faith, didn't really have that guidance in their life? Is your approach a little different, or is it still, hey, we're going to love you the same?
No, we're going to love you the same. We're going to love you the same. Because remember that, our purpose, my purpose, Scripture speaks, and it talks about, Jesus is the author of salvation, not me.
Right.
It's a 100% work of Him, not me. If He chooses to allow me to be a vehicle to take that gospel to somebody, then praise the Lord that He allowed me that ability. But I've realized that He's the one in control. I can trust Him. And for student athletes, especially the older ones that didn't grow up around it, they usually also have expectations. And so if you show up and treating them like they're a fish in the water and you're trying to catch them with some sort of bait, they're going to realize that real quickly.
Sure.
And they're going to realize, they'll start questioning, do you really care about me? Or are you just wanting me to make some sort of a decision or something that you think I need help with? And the reality is my approach is I say, everybody's worthy. Everybody's loved. And we're going to love them where they're at. Whether they ever come to church, whether they ever make a decision, at the end of the day, I want them to grow up. And when they run into me in the streets or on Facebook or through a podcast like we're able to do with you right now, and I appreciate the opportunity, that they'll go, I remember that old chunky guy, and the one thing I'll say is that guy loved me.
That's right.
He do you know that I've never, it's going to blow your mind, I've never invited an athlete or a coach to church.
Wow.
There's never been one time I've ever done that, because I feel that if I'm not living it, then me with my words inviting them, what good is that?
Right.
But if I'm living it, when they do say, hey, there's something a little bit different, I want to see what this is about, then when they want to come, they'll be there. And some people will disagree with me on that. And I'm not really in a philosophical debate. I mean, I think we need to invite people to join us where we are. But I just want to make sure that people understand that's not why I'm here. I'm here because you're worth loving.
That's right.
Bottom line. And I'm going to love you, and I'm going to act like God's called me to act, and pray that, God willing, that I can make a difference in the process. That's
right. That's exactly right, man. That's awesome. So we talked earlier about, when I was talking about, being vulnerable and what is my identity in, right? What is this purpose? How would you handle, an athlete or a kid whose identity, when their whole life has been in sports, I guess what I'm asking is, how do you help with kids and the identity when their whole life has been in sports and they just need, that direction of, man, it ain't all about this, it ain't all about this. I don't know. I just feel like, I know several athletes that, who I feel like, I've got one pretty close to me that, man, her whole, well, hold on, Mick, I'm going to read you this. All right. I'm going to read this to you real quick. What I saw this morning. Where'd it go? Oh goodness. Here it is. This is something that a student, has said. I'm not going to say names or anything like that, but this is what they say. I've been having problems accepting who I am. I base my outfits off of what I've seen in people. I do full face of makeup every day. I don't look in the mirror and say, God made me who I am. I look and say, I don't look like that girl. I think way too much of what people think. I want to be able to go to school without looking at someone saying, why don't I look like that? And I always put my self-worth in this sport that I play. So how would you respond to that? You know, if or give some advice to that young athlete there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, ironically enough, and if people went to crossroadscommunitychurch.com, they could see our podcast. And this past Sunday, I did a podcast talking about a mirror, and I called it The Mirror That Stopped Us. And the reality is there's a lot of people, including ourselves, that write things on our mirrors that we can't even see our own reflection because there's so much stuff on there.
Sure.
I had some students write on that mirror prior to the message to give me an idea of the things they're thinking about and what they're doing. And it was stuff like fat, ugly, too young, not worth it, an accident, not capable, all anxiety ridden, all these different things, the things that the world wants to put on them, things that social media wants to put on them. And the reality is the only way you can help somebody like that that's struggling with self-worth is you got to give them the truth and say, but do you really know your worth?
Yeah.
Like, I don't see you that way. And that's easy for us to say. Ricky, it's easy in 2026 to be 51 compared to being 14.
Sure.
It just is. And it's different being a 51-year-old man and being a 14, 13-year-old girl with all the pressures. But I think what most people are craving more than anything is they want to be loved, they want to be accepted. And so they're looking to these things not just to find their self-worth, but to find love and acceptance. And if we can speak truth into them, because not all of them are getting it at home.
Sure.
Some of the things they may be living with, mom and dad are fighting, they're split up. That one of them may be in jail. They may be living with a grandparent. They may be in foster care. And they have all of these things that they feel like is going against them. And they're just trying to find the self-worth. And tying it into the question you had as far as sports, that's the toughest part. Because it's occupying so much time now. I have watched students that I've been their chaplain for many years. And all of a sudden, the last game, playoff game, oh my goodness, they kick a field goal. Break our hearts. We lose by 1 point. We're eating the after game pizza or Chick-fil-A. We get on the bus. One kid doesn't want to take off his jersey, gets home, finally takes everything off, goes home, and that's it. And all of a sudden they're going, I don't even know what to do with my schedule. Every day for the last 4 years, I was getting up at 6:45 to be at workouts. Every day, my schedule was planned for me. Whether it was football season, basketball season, baseball season, track, whatever, tennis, golf, everything. And all of a sudden it's just over.
Yeah.
And the thing that I try to emphasize to people is the things that truly matter, God's never going to have you walk away from it.
That's right.
And those are where you find worth. But as far as a young lady that's dealing with that, as far as image issues, we've got to change the way she's looking at herself.
Sure.
And that's going to come through loving her where she's at and speaking truth into her. And I'm not talking about like Bible scriptures and quoting at her. I'm talking about like really loving her and helping, like doing more than just like, well, I'm going to pray for you and I'm here if you need me. Like, no, we need to see her. And when you see her, be like, oh man, you look great today. How's your day? How was your morning? And get her around some good people. One of the things I say on the regular basis, your friends will determine the direction and quality of your life. And I would guarantee you, okay, and I'm going to step out on a limb here. I'll guarantee you if you went home to where that teenager who came and talked to you, there's a good chance that she's got a mom that's probably in her 40s, that's dressing like she's in high school.
Sure.
That's doing all kinds of things and worried about her own image. And she's running with friends that are caught up with image and trying to figure out how this is going to work. And then they get into struggles with even their own body. And it's just based on what the world's pouring at them and how to combat the different lies that are out there that make these kids feel so worthless.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's sad. But I don't know that if it'll ever end. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's
They
always,
won't.
yeah. And you hate that, but you're right. That really all we can do is love them and speak life into them. And,
Right.
that's all you can do. But okay. So
Let me go one more. It will end for that person when they turn to the right things. But what you're talking about is going to continue to get worse and worse and worse in our culture and in our society, just because we've opened Pandora's box.
sure.
And it's like you just can't get it all back in there.
Yeah.
The next big thing that you're going to see is, how do I keep up with AI and all of these, commercials and different things that, it's the perfect person. That's what you're seeing even in the movies, where it's not even going to be, the real actors, and everything's AI, and that's what they're starting to gravitate to. And
Yeah.
it's an endless situation. It's an endless situation.
And it's scary. It's scary.
It really is. It really is.
So 20 years, okay, 20 years, Bradley County, Bradley Central.
Mhm.
Is there a moment from your chaplaincy that you'll never forget? Is there a moment just where you're like, man, I will never forget that?
Yes, there is, and it's funny. It was actually in the beginning, and Bradley was playing Polk County, and Polk County had they had one dude that was he was the dude. He ended up going to Tennessee and playing baseball.
Sure.
And we'd been pouring in, and if I'm not, I believe it may have actually been my first year here, at Bradley as the chaplain. And anyway, we're at halftime, and man, I mean, our kids are just beat. I mean, beat, exhausted, like dehydrated, struggling, and I never forget. One gentleman came up to me and grabbed me, and he said, "Mickey, I just need you to pray. I want to finish what I started, and I know that the things that you've been, just pray for me." And I never forget that, because it made me realize that even though I thought maybe nobody's listening, everybody was listening. Everybody was catching it. And you could just see how everything was starting to change. And they went on to make the playoffs for the first time in many, many years. And please don't mishear what I'm saying, but the tone, in the whole program changed, and have made the playoffs every year until a year ago. Yeah. And in fact, I joke around with me and Coach Floyd, joke around a lot, because he'll say, "Remind me how long you've been here." And I said, "Well, Coach, it's easy to remember. Ever since I've been the chaplain here, we've made the playoffs." And he's like, "Oh," I said, "So it really wasn't you, it was me." And of course, I'm joking. Coach Floyd has built an amazing program. But last year, I wasn't able to be around as much. I had a shoulder surgery, shoulder replacement, and I'd be doggone if we didn't miss the playoffs. And I told Coach, I said, "See, you got to have me. It's job security. You got to have me."
I'm telling you, it was. I was lucky enough to be on that staff last year, and I think everybody had shoulder surgery or knee injuries. Something. Everybody was kind of going through something that was a part of Bradley Central. But
I told a reporter, he came up to me as he knew me from being around, and he said, "How's the season going?" I said, "Well, I'll tell you how bad it is. Even the chaplains had shoulder surgery."
Oh goodness. Yeah. But what's really cool, Mick, is it was a rough stretch there. I mean, if it could go wrong, it went wrong. But what I really appreciated was when we played Cleveland last year, and of course Cleveland, had a pretty good team last year, and the way that our kids were able to compete and fight, that's why I've always loved Coach Floyd is, it don't matter the circumstances, right? It's next man up mentality.
That's right.
And
how you going to handle adversity? How you going to handle adversity?
Right. And he's a guy that kids will run through the wall for him. They'll run through a wall for him. And and it was really, really cool to see that last year and be a part of that, even though it didn't turn out the way we wanted to. But you came back this year and we made the playoffs, so it's all good. So
that's right. But let me say something about that team, because here's what people don't know. So I was going through that and had missed some days because of having a shoulder surgery. But I never forget our last game. We went up to Bearden, okay?
Oh yeah.
And this is when Bearden was extremely strong. You know, they were battling for first place in the region, really setting up. And I'm telling you, if it wasn't for kind of, and I'm not one of these guys that it's somebody else's fault, like you own your own mistakes.
Sure.
But if it wasn't for a couple of kind of weird breaks there at the end, our boys would have beaten them. And Bearden got done with that game, and I think they may have beat us by like 4.
Yeah.
And it was one of those nail biters. And I'm going to tell you what, I've been doing this at Bradley for a long time. And no matter what group we had, I have never seen a more successful coaching job from a staff to go through losing your starting quarterback, you know, all the different injuries. I mean, we were literally, if I remember correctly, I think we were up to 12 starters that were not playing at the end of the year. 12 starters.
Yeah.
Out of 22, 12 of them are not playing. But those guys went out there, and you would have thought that they were playing for a state championship, and their attitude and efforts, and watching them laugh and cut up. And I mean, it was truly one of my favorite memories, because it made me realize that, you know, sometimes you talk about the scoreboard don't matter, the record don't matter. And let's just be honest, a lot of people that talk about that a lot, it does matter. You know, that's why if you're going to do it, you're going to win. But there are bigger things, and that was one of those nights that reminded me that there was something that so much bigger that happened that year, that even though it was a different year for Bradley football, it also was a great year. It was a great reminder of, you know what, these kids, every one of them are special.
That's right.
Every one of them special. And I think all of them will remember that.
Absolutely. You know, one thing I've always thought is, I've always said that, you know, and I do feel like Bearden probably had some pressure on them in that game to, you know, they thought it was going to be an easy win and get in the playoffs, all that stuff.
That's right.
You know, one thing I usually try to tell the kids is pressure is a privilege, right? Pressure is a privilege. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people, a lot of kids their age that would love to be out on the field playing against Bearden, playing against Farragut, playing against all these teams.
That's right.
You know, so if we approach it with a different mindset, you know, and really we feel pressure because, you know, we have an identity in the sport we play. We feel like that sport's, you know, we're good at that sport. So we feel this pressure. But if your identity is not in that sport, right?
That's right.
Is your identity, say your identity is in Christ. Well, you play free because you know
That's
your
right.
value, no matter what the outcome of the game is.
That's right.
Is, you know, you're going to be fine. So when you play free, right, you play better. You
That's
just,
right.
you just do. And I feel like that game, we were loose, we were free, you know, and they just trusted their coaching.
That's
and
right.
those are the type of performances you have. So
That's right.
and you know, they're always going to feel pressure, especially nowadays.
Right.
But I think it's all mindset. Pressure is a privilege to
It
me.
really is.
There's a lot of people that wish they could be in situations that you're in to feel that
That's
pressure,
right.
you know?
That's right. That's
But,
right.
You know, so, but over, you know, at your time at Bradley, you know, and I know you did stops at Blackman and I can't remember the other place that you said, Mick, but specifically, what has the Bradley Central community meant for Mickey Clark and his family?
Well, Bradley Central Community's my home.
Sure.
You know, I grew up in Mount Juliet, and that's where I graduated high school. Blackman was an amazing experience with Coach Ossip. He won a state title when he was at Oakland. And then when they built Blackman, he went over to Blackman and took over that. And I remember Coach Ossip and Coach Mack and some amazing coaches. Habersham Central with Theo Caldwell in Georgia, great experience. Fossil Ridge, being around those students and getting to know Todd Dye was a great experience. But Bradley Central, that is who I am.
Sure.
And, you know, sometimes I used to apologize about that. Like, as a pastor or student minister in the community, like, you got to be for everybody. And I've realized that in the process of trying to be everywhere, you'll find out you're nowhere. And so the reality is I am for everybody. I'm for all of our schools, but God's given me a special opportunity to go and be a part of a family. And that's what Bradley Central is. It's family. It's where my kids have graduated. It's where I've grown up. I mean, honestly, we start talking about, 16 years there, 20 years including Lake Forest, so 20 years in the Bradley County school system doing chaplaincy stuff. I was 31 years old. Now I'm 51. Easton, who's 24, was 4. He actually was going in, or maybe 5, because he's going into kindergarten at Michigan Avenue. And so it's everything. I love it. I love them. If tomorrow somebody came up to me and said, you can't do this anymore, it'd probably be one of the most devastating things I've ever heard. And at the same time, I would leave there with my head high, and my heart full, knowing that I've done everything that I'm supposed to do. And when everybody thought, and I say this very carefully, when everybody thought, oh man, Mickey, he's done this, and a difference he may or may not have made in changing kids' lives, the reality is they've changed my life.
Sure.
Crossroads Community Church is a result of chaplaincy stuff that I was able to be involved in. Our church meets in the Fine Arts Center at Bradley Central High School.
Sure.
And that was opened up to us when we started to plant the church. Now, we have obligations and rent and things that we do, and have a great partnership with our county school system. And it allows the county school system to have funding for various things. So it's not like we're just taking.
Sure.
Again, we want to be life-giving. But it means everything to me. I care for them. I care for the coaches. I still keep up with the coaches, even some of the coaches that are at different places now. I keep up with the former athletes and all of them. I get calls on a regular basis to do weddings, and I'm always like, yeah, let's do this, man. I'm so excited for you. And I get updates from people having babies, and it's awesome. And I'm going to be careful. It's not everything, but it is one of the main things.
Sure.
And that's what I would say. And if you gave me an opportunity right now and said, hey, Mickey, because I'm a big UT fan.
Sure.
If you said, hey, Mickey, this next fall, if you don't mind, why don't you tell Coach Floyd that you're not going to do the chaplain stuff, and you're going to go up and travel with UT and be their chaplain? I would say, no, thank you. That's how much it means to me.
Yeah. Wow. And Mick, and I'll say this for the thousands of people that you've been able to impact, we may not have remembered the pregame prayer or the post game conversations, but we do know that you were there. And there's thousands of athletes who know Mickey Clark was there. And and that doesn't just mean a lot for us. It also inspires us to be like you, right? And have a servant's heart, right? Because that's what the Lord's called us to do. And and you may lose touch with these athletes along the way, but know that they still know Mickey Clark. They still know, when they see you on Facebook, social media, that guy was there for me. And the thousands of athletes that you've been able to touch has been, incredible. It's been absolutely incredible. And, we some of my buddies, we talk about these things, and not that we want to live in the past, right? But we all got to where we were in some way, in some form or fashion, right? And part of who we are is because of the things that we've been a part of, right? And so it's really been incredible to see what you've done, and it may not impact that kid right then, what you guys are doing, but it's going to come. It's going to come. It may be down the road some, but they're going to circle their way back around and be like, man, that was a man that was there for me. Right. And, so I just want to say thank you, for me, for always being there for us in my class, right? 2011, Dwan Massagill, Brad Coball, all those guys, Tucker Bolton. We still remember all that stuff. To me, there is no other chaplain, right? In anywhere. It's Mickey Clark. right?
Right.
So it's just been incredible to see what you've been able to do, and we're so thankful for it. But I always like to end the podcast with a little rapid fire,
All right.
and so I'm going to put you on the spot here. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I'm just going to
All right.
read a few questions and we'll see what you can come up with. All right, we'll start with the
All
first.
right.
All right, favorite sport to watch?
Favorite sport, football.
Football. Favorite sport to be around as a chaplain?
Again, that would be football.
All right, best locker room you've ever been in?
Best locker room I've ever been in would be where I did a pregame thing for Clemson.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah. All right, pregame prayer or postgame conversation? Which one would you rather do, or both?
Pregame prayer.
Okay.
Pregame prayer.
All right. One word coaches need to hear more of.
One word coaches need to hear more of is remember the why.
Sure.
I know it's more than one word, but the why.
Yeah, absolutely. Winning or growth?
Winning.
I love it. I love it. All right.
Because you can get good growth when you're winning.
That's right. That's right. Let's see. I had one more here. Where'd it go? Okay. Last one. One message that every athlete needs to hear.
If this is your greatest moment in life, when you were in high school, then you're going to have a very miserable life. My prayer is that your pinnacle of your life is not on a field when you were in high school. God has bigger things for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're exactly right. And, sometimes it takes people a while to figure that out, and, I do like growth. Right. And I think what you said earlier about, athletes struggling to find their identity after they've been doing something for so long, huge, right? Because they feel lost. They feel, that was a safe time in their life. They had structure, they had all these things. And then when it comes to an end, it's over. So then a lot of them struggle for a long time, trying to find a purpose again, trying to find their why. And
That's right.
Excuse me. And that's why they reflect on all those things, right? Because it felt good to them. And it was,
That's right.
It was a good time in their life, where now they may have struggles. They're in the real world. And so, but I want to hit home that, the Lord has put you here, for a great purpose. You have a purpose. For anybody that's listening, that's struggling with this, you have a purpose. It may take you some time to find it, but and if you ever want to come and just hang out at Crossroads Community Church, come on, and we'll help you and get you on the right track, and just love you, like Mickey says. We'll just love on you, and
that's right.
But Mick, I'm super thankful that you were able to come on with me, and this has been one of my favorite podcasts so far because of the amount of respect that I have for you and your family and what you guys have been able to do. It's just incredible. And if I could have half of the impact that you've had on people in your life, I would be an extremely happy man. And it's just really, really incredible to see what you've been able to do. But super thankful, Mick, that you were able to come on and join us today. And I'll definitely see you Sunday.
Absolutely. And thank you for the opportunity and for the kind words. I mean, again, I'm just a simple man living an ordinary life, but trying to do something bigger than myself. And to all the different people that'll see this, including yourself, I would tell you, don't sell yourself short. You really don't understand how big of an impact. End with this one question. Not if, but when you find yourself in the middle of the room with the greatest influence, what are you going to do with it? And if you can answer that question, everything else will take care of itself.
That's exactly right. You're exactly right. Well, that's Mickey Clark, everybody. Pastor, Crossroads Community Church, chaplain at Bradley Central High School, also chaplain at Lake Forest Middle School. And he's more than happy to talk to anybody else that goes to any other school, Walker Valley, Ocoee. He might not want you to win on Friday nights, but he definitely wants the best for you. So
I hope you have the best game of your life and Bradley wins by 1 point.
That's right. That's right. Mick, appreciate you, man. We love you, and we'll definitely see you Sunday.
Absolutely. Love you too, my friend.
All right. We'll see you. All right, guys. That was Mickey Clark, pastor at Crossroads Community Church. And, I can't say enough about Mick and what he's done through his chaplaincy and now pastoring at Crossroads Community Church. And he's a great man. He's a great man. He's a great father. He's a great husband. And, love him to death and can't speak more highly of him. And if you're looking for a home, Crossroads Community Church, like I said, they meet at the Bradley Central Fine Arts Center. Service starts at 10 a.m. on Sundays. And I know we're fixing to start, some community groups that are about to start happening next week about talking about those next week, and those things will get started. If you're looking for a home or somewhere just to come and hang out, I know Mick and the guys would love to have you over there, and I'll see you there. So, but we appreciate you guys listening to Coach 'em Up with Bradley County Sports. I'm your host, RC. Also, thanks to our sponsors, ESPN Cleveland 101.3, GP Athletes, Win the Battle Gloves, and Southside Fitness. And we will see you guys next episode.
Go hard, but go home. Touchdown like your end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard.